Hey, what's up everyone? This is Luca Pretolesi with Sound on Sound. We are in Las Vegas at Studio DMI. Today we are here to talk about stereo bus treatment, compression, EQ, and clipping. Let's dive in.
When the walls are falling down, I wonder where did we go wrong?
For me, it's important to understand the content of the mix before I dive into the stereo bus. A groovy track that has a lot of movement and groove. I try to stay away from fast compression, for example, or I try to stay away from really sharp EQing. So let me show the way I start my process on a stereo bus. And it usually is made by two compressors. One compressor I call more technical, if it makes sense. And the second one is the vibe one. It gives vibe to the mix. The combination on the Pro C2 and the Lime from Acoustica is just perfect to me. So I think the Pro C2 has a mid-range compression. What I tend to do, bring the mid-range in front of the mix. Try to just don't have too much pumping and want to stay away specifically from 300 and down. Let me play just what the detector is listening, which is this.
When the walls are falling down, I wonder.
Essentially no kick. Let's go on a bigger part.
I can't stay.
So essentially 300 and down, 10K and down. So I'm shaving the top and the bottom, compress the mid-range, and bring the mid-range a little bit in front of the mix from the real beginning. Now, the compression usually is about 2 to 3 dB, and I like to blend a little bit of dry in. In that way, I'm not going from straight compression. Also, I like to reduce the compression on the side. That way, I'm compressing a little bit the peaks on the mid-range and retain the side, kind of like floating around the mix. Let's listen with or without the Pro C. So without compression, it takes away a little bit of the movement, but it's also a combination with the Lime. So let's go in and out without the Lime and without the Pro C. So essentially the Pro C, you bring the mid-range up front, and the Lime make the track kind of move. The interaction between two EQs allow me to give expansion on the top end. And give expansion on the top end, it takes away the flat sounding digital that sometimes we have in the box, which is the mid-range is the part that I really like from the in-the-box sound of a plugin, because it's very open and it's in front of me as far as the mix. The top end, I want to have groove and movement as the low end. In order to do that, I use a combination of dynamic EQ from the Melda and a fixed blend from the color EQ. Let me exaggerate on purpose those frequencies. Let's go back on a more conservative place. Let me bypass both, and so you can get an idea what I mean by expansion on the top. I think the heavy lifting of the color EQ, thanks to the dynamic EQ that it feed into that, is really create this sense of movement on the top that I really like. The low-end approach is very similar to me. I want to just be careful that I don't get too boomy on the sub frequency, so 30 hertz and down. I'm going to burn a lot of headroom that I don't want. But let's talk about the concept of the low end. I really like the expansion that I'm getting from the auto dynamic, but I really, really like the color that I'm having with the 40 hertz of the diamond. So the combination, again, is not a static 40 hertz, but it just move between kick and bass and the note of the bass. So let's play an example, like exaggerate the 40 hertz to understand really what it's doing. So almost going on clipping, you can hear there's like a certain roundness and tone on the 40, 50, 60 hertz that makes the track really breathe and move on the top and the bottom in this case. Again, without losing the mid-range. Now, the mid-range is certain things that sometimes do, which is taking the snare portion and expand a little bit the snare portion and compress a little bit the lower octave of that. So let's check it out. Now let's enhance the mid-range with a color EQ, lifting the entire mid-range and have a little bit of movement around the snare. It's not touching the vocal much, you just give a little bit of movement around the snare. So let's bypass it to EQ. So let's hear the combination of dynamic EQ and color EQ. All right, guys, thanks to spend a few minutes with me here in Las Vegas, Studio DMI, Sound on Sound. I love you guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.